Welcome back to another episode of Boom or Bust, the flagship program for this channel. This is the first episode of 2024 NFL draft season, and we're going to be talking about quarterbacks. We also are going to get into the real grade for the Kansas City Chiefs. So this season, I kind of dove head first. Usually I do a couple episodes of primer, kind of getting us all set up, especially for new viewers who haven't listened to me before. But again, kind of dove into it head first this year. I really want to make sure that I covered a good amount because obviously my Chicago Bears had a number one pick again this year. And last year I was joining my fraternity, so I didn't have the time to dedicate like I do this year. But we're back in that situation again. But as a reminder, I know there's a lot of Bears fans, mostly Bears fans that watch this channel, but this is not a Bears show. This is not Bears content. This is draft content. This is not coming from a Bears lens. So please remember that. All right. So usually what I do is I'll start off talking about what's my kind of process for quarterbacks and everything, the things that stand out, I guess. And like all of my processes has changed over the years. Quarterback, I think, is one of those that hasn't changed a whole lot, but like most of these positions, especially on offense, there's just a difference in how people play the game. And so you got to evaluate a little differently. So I guess the easiest way, what people call now off-schedule plays, those get a lot more leeway than they would have back in the day. I think definitely me and other evaluators would not, we would never given that, we would never counted that as a positive necessarily. To be mobile was fine. You didn't have to be slow, but to just kind of improvise, that wasn't really a positive. It was definitely a negative more so than anything. Now is not only is it not a negative, most times it can be a bump and almost a requirement for some teams. So you got that. And then throwing on the run, things of that nature, just that's kind of changed. But everything else for the most part is pretty much the same for me. And we went through this long, I don't even know how many years, but we went through this long period of the spread quarterbacks. And to an extent, we still deal with that now, but the offensives have changed in the NFL. And you have expectations that have changed in the NFL to where teams are more than likely going to want a coach to formulate that offense to make it something easy for the quarterback. Now, obviously, this was never the case because you didn't try to ease a quarter, or you didn't try to make the quarterback, quote unquote, feel comfortable by switching up everything just because he can't do other stuff. Obviously, you're going to play to your quarterback strength. You're going to call plays, but you sat down because it took time to learn the NFL system. The NFL system was not a college system. And nowadays, you have teams that really want to push their coaches to make a college system so that their quarterback can get in faster. And to some success, I would say, but me personally, I still think that the best tradition is still letting your quarterback learn and sit and develop and all that. So anyway, what do we grade? So as I do with all the positions, I grade by level 1 through 5 on certain traits. And for quarterbacks, there's only one gradable trait, which is the arm, level 5 arm being the highest, and level 1 obviously being the lowest. And for me, I don't know, I've thought about changing that system because not all level 5 arms are created the same. But I think I'm going to leave it because it's the same thing I do with speed and other receiver or other positions like receivers, is that you could be a level 5, you could be a 4-3 guy, a low 4.3 or 4.2 guy don't mean your speed is the exact same as the other person. You can even run the exact same time. Your speed on the field is not going to be the exact same. And so I feel that same way with the arm. So there's that. Other than that, we look at the mechanics, the throwing mechanics. I think a lot more people are into that now. Definitely was not a lot of people talking about that back in the day. But the throwing mechanics, the stroke of it, the arm slot, all that. We talk about the release, the lower body mechanics, and then a big chunk is focused on the pocket, which I think for a non-evaluator is probably the part that people miss the most. You got to be able to look at a player and see how are his feet in the pocket. There's some quarterbacks that get dead in the pocket and they don't move until they're literally running away. There's other people, as you're taught, to keep your feet bouncing and buzzing so that you're able to move. Then you talk about awareness in the pocket. How aware are you? We talked about peripheral vision and all that. How aware of you to rush? Do you really understand what the defenders are? Then we talk about pocket manipulation, which is different. You might have great pocket awareness, but you don't manipulate the pocket well. You don't know how to step up, over, left, right. You don't know where to go in the pocket. You don't have that natural feel. And then we talk about the ability to throw under pressure or through contact. Then we talk about throwing on the run, ability to read progressions, and we talk about decision making, accuracy, short to medium accuracy, and deep ball accuracy. And then I also added not too long ago anticipation, really trying to get an engaging idea of how often this quarterback throws with anticipation, because that is important. That's extremely important. Now it's important. It's a different level of importance depending on the quarterback. I think the world now has a great example with Tua, who's not the first, but he's the current example of throwing with anticipation can not only help you out of bad situations, but it can be your superpower. And you can be extremely effective doing that because you might not have the arm strength to throw off schedule or to throw off balance, or you might not have the offensive line to give you time to get a second play or, scramble around and extend the play. So anticipation is huge, not only as just your main thing, but in the toughest of situations. And hopefully we see, because this playoffs has shown us again, like it does every year, I wouldn't say the only way. Well, I would say the only way to win in the actual tough pure passing situations is you got to throw from the pocket and on time. And so anticipation becomes a big thing. You can't wait to see a receiver is open because this is a game of inches and seconds. So that's pretty much how we evaluate the quarterback. I don't think it's nothing too big that most people wouldn't know because everybody watches the quarterback. So I'm going to just get into this year's group and go through my rankings and we'll go from there. So number one, I have Caleb Williams. And I've talked about Caleb a lot just because of the channel being the Bears channel and us being close to potentially picking him. So I talked about him a lot. So there's plenty of material for people to go back to look at. But overall, looking at his evaluation, what stands out to me, the first thing you look at for every single player is how they move. You want to know what type of athlete they are. The old saying, better athletes make better players and all that. So the first thing that stands out to me is his pocket ability. And, you watching it and it's just like, okay, what makes him quote unquote generational? What makes him, talented? Now, people are going to be tempted to be like, okay, this is just Johnny Manziel. And it does have that feeling, but you really have to watch all the plays to understand what you're seeing. This isn't an offensive line giving him 10 seconds to throw and him just moving back and forth. No, this is quite the opposite. It's a really bad offensive line, not giving him a ton of time, but watching not only his natural awareness of the pocket and where defenders are, but an ability to manipulate the pocket that I've rarely seen. And people will think that if you're athletic, you can just manipulate the pocket. That's not the case. There's plenty of quarterbacks that are great athletes that are not good at manipulating the pocket. It is a technique. It's a skill set. So you see, or you might see quarterbacks doing these drills. A lot of, I would say almost probably every team does these drills for the quarterback to move their feet, step over backs, stop, step up, make a throw, moving around the pocket, dodging bags, all that. So people work on it, but not everybody's good at it. And it is a giant part of being a great quarterback. Tom Brady comes to mind. Tom Brady was excellent at manipulating the pocket. You watch him with the Tampa Bay Bucks in his last years, and he's still either going to stand tough in the pocket when he needs to, but if he has to, he's going to move through the pocket and step up to where the open space is so he could deliver a throw. And so that is a combination of IQ and physical ability. Now with Caleb, you see manipulation like you never seen before. The man can he can step up in the pocket, go to the left, drop back, step right back up. Like, he could get to wherever he wants in the pocket. And that's just not something you see. That's something that is a bit rare. And again, you might have seen athletes that could move around and dodge people in the pocket, but to have that ability to work in the pocket and still have the arm strength he does is kind of what makes him rare. So I gave him a level 5 arm. I mean, you could watch anything off platform, off balance, the ability to still throw with velocity. That's a top rated arm right there. And then for me, him as a runner, he's not Lamar, he's not Justin Fields, he's not Michael Vick, but he is a runner that has, I would say, a good blend of power and a lot of shiftiness. And that's not something you see. Again, he just really has great spatial awareness. So I think those are the things that kind of stand out to me. So the release is quick, the arm is strong, he can do what he wants in the pocket, which only gets better with a better offensive line. And then the rest of it, I think you see him throw his ability to throw on the run, obviously maintain his velocity, somewhat maintain his accuracy. And then you see his ability to go downfield and read the coverage. For me, I do think it was a lot of improvising. But at the same time, again, if you watch closely, you'll see that he still understands where his players are. And knowing a concept as a quarterback is not as common as you would think. There's a lot of young quarterbacks that you can tell they don't know where their outlet is. They get locked in on wherever they're looking at or their pre-snap read, and they forget about where everybody is. Caleb, there's enough times where you can see he knows exactly where everybody is. And so overall, I think his accuracy is pretty good. I think he has a great deep ball, good touch on the deep ball and everything like that. Now, the thing about Caleb is that you're going to have to take all of those skills and then put it into an efficient package. We know he can be effective, but can he be efficient? Can he be efficient with his decision making? Can he be efficient with throwing within a rhythm as in balancing that with throwing off schedule? Can you put all that and hone it in? That's going to be the question with Caleb Williams. But this is a prospect that is kind of giving you tools that you haven't seen before. And people could talk about the off field, and that's fine. That's not something I'm going to dig deep into because it's really just personality and I'm not around him, so I don't know. Not to say it's not important. It's extremely important. It would completely change my decision if I was making the decision, but I'm not. I'm just evaluating the player. So the person is extremely important, and people who want to take shots at that, that's fine. But if you watch the film, this is definitely the number one prospect. All right, so we'll move on. My number 2 is Jaden Daniels. I was really shocked by what I saw on film. And I gave him a 4.5 on the arm, but I think about it, and I might go back in the second round. He might end up with a 5. We'll see. But the velocity he threw with, and he had such a fast release, such a really compact, smooth throwing motion. Because what I heard was that he was fast. That's what happens, just the surface level conversation. So when I put on the tape, it was just shocking to see somebody to throw with such velocity, because usually anyone that's fast with a big arm is automatically talked about as one of the top prospects. So you could go back to not too long ago with Malik Willis. Didn't go high, terrible quarterback class, try to tell everybody that. But people were talking about him going number 2, number 3 overall, simply because he was an athlete that could run around and he had a big arm. And usually that's enough. Now, maybe people have seen enough of that to where it doesn't work out, where they stop doing that. But usually that shoots you right up. So Jaden Daniels, after winning the Heisman, and then after declaring for the draft, and the season ended, people start to talk, and now he's at that point where he's pretty much in contention for number 2. But prior to that, everybody that I kind of watch on TV, they said that, yeah, this was a day 2 guy and he shot all the way up. So I'm trying to understand what happened, or what was y'all watching that y'all didn't see this guy as a top 5 pick? I don't understand. That part confused me, because I kept hearing he climbing up, he might be a first round pick. Okay, he's climbing up, he might be a top 10 pick. And this is after the Heisman. So I'm just like, what were y'all watching before the Heisman? So that was the only thing with me. But he's very slender. Like Lamar, and Lamar put on weight, but it reminds me of that. He reminds me a lot of Lamar as a runner. Not necessarily going to juke anybody crazy. Definitely not going to really power through people, but such explosion and quick acceleration, and the narrow frame, it makes him a smaller target. You see in the open field when it's 101, if you Derrick Henry, people are like, oh, no one wants to see Derrick Henry in the open field. I'd much rather see Derrick Henry than Lamar Jackson. Derrick Henry has a lot of surface to hit. Lamar, very slender. Jaden Daniels, even slimmer. Because I think Lamar is up to 220 something now. I know he put on weight. But Jaden is very thin. And so that makes him hard to, line up with for a hit. So very explosive runner in that sense too. So I mean, that's just elite mobility. He's gonna be one of those guys. But as I said, release lightning fast, great throwing motion. Lower body mechanics, I don't think are as great. I gotta go. That's one of the things I gotta go back and watch. The pocket, his feet are always moving, ready to move. Obviously, he's really elusive. I forgot to mention I do elusiveness in the pocket too. Obviously, Caleb Williams pretty elite at that. Jaden Daniels, I think he's really good in the pocket. He's one of those guys that, like Lamar, that's really fat. Well, Lamar, give him credit, especially this postseason. He really made people miss their tackle. And so I don't know if Jaden is that. He's definitely could run around you and juke you, but once you get your hands on him, it's usually done because he's pretty small. But Lamar has gotten better again and stronger at taking those tackles on. So somewhat like that, but not quite as elite as a Lamar. The awareness, I think, was good, but he didn't get a ton of pressure. And so that's one of those things that you typically get, which makes Caleb a little different, because typically with top pick, they come from these teams where they have all day to throw. So he didn't get a ton of pressure, but from what I saw, I thought his awareness was decent, but we'll see how that translates. I think he's good with the manipulation. And those are the whole pocket I want to kind of go back and really focus in on, but I didn't see anything that was major negative or positive. And then throwing throwing under pressure with people around him in contact, I thought was really good. I thought he had some great throws where he was able to still be on time and accurate, even with a dirty pocket. And as a throwing on a run, he didn't do a ton. That's one of the things I want to go back and see. I liked his ability to go through the progression. He can get to multiple options. I don't feel like he was one of those quarterbacks that knew where everybody was. It almost felt almost like a half read type thing, but you did see him get to a check down here and there. And I went back and watched him at Arizona State too, just to see like how did this, like why was he not on people's radar? He's pretty similar back at Arizona State, except also obviously he's got some better talent at LSU. So I think this is a guy that can read at a good level. I'm not saying, a good level for college. So what does that translate into the NFL is going to matter what's around him. But he's not a guy that I think can't see the field. So he's kind of somewhere in that middle. I thought his decisions were really good. He didn't force the ball to one person. He took off a lot. And honestly, I can't blame him for all the times he took off. There's times where I thought a few plays where I saw where like, yeah, he had a guy could have probably got it to. But overall, I didn't think he forced anything as a quarterback. I think he distributed the ball pretty well. And part of that is the spread offense where you got a lot of screens and stuff. But I loved his accuracy. I graded him out as great on short to medium and great deep ball. Very tight spiral. I like that. And then I think him throwing with anticipation, that needs to grow a little bit. It wasn't bad, but I think just a product of the spread offense where he was kind of one read playing a lot, and then when it was an actual progression, I do think he was slightly not behind, but slightly not on time, where he was throwing to the receiver that was open rather than prior, before the break or anything like that. But really great touch. Deep ball was really impressive. Accuracy was impressive. Arm strength was impressive. Mobility is impressive. So I'm just curious as to why he wasn't rated higher, but I really like Jaden Daniels and his ability as a pure passer. He has excellent tools, but we will see as far as the mental part of the game how well he'll do on the translation. All right, so number 3, I got Drake May. And Drake May, I'm definitely going back to watch again. I talked with one of my friends that I trust, and we both agreed, he does this stuff too. We both agreed that Drake May, his arm looked stronger last year than it did this year. And that worries me a lot. Now, I don't know. Obviously I'm not a scout, so I'm not digging into this more than I need to. So I don't know if he had an injury or what might have happened with him. But all I know is I wanted to see him versus Notre Dame, and I watched it, and it was a noticeable difference in his arm. So I graded him out as a level 4 arm. And that's one of the things that I can't stand. 2 things that I can't stand. When I can't gauge a quarterback's arm strength and when I can't gauge a receiver's speed. You have to watch it over and over and over. So, because some guys are just tweeners. So I ended up with a level 4 arm, which isn't bad. Joe Burrow is like a level 4 arm. So I'm like, okay, I watched enough to know he is not a level 5, but I can't really tell where he is. And then I saw last year, and I'm like, man, that arm looked different. Like the velocity looked different. So we both agreed on that. I don't know why that is, but that does give me kind of a, red flag. The other thing about Drake May is that I'm just not sure about his accuracy. So there's a lot of people that talk about the changes with the offensive staff, and I guess he was in a new scheme or whatever, and that he didn't have kind of his same weapons. And I get it. Oh, I'll talk about Tez Walker later, but I get it. He didn't have any kind of big time guys, and Josh Downs was one of his guys who plays with the Colts. So while I get that, and people saying like, as far as the rhythm of the offense, the throws those don't matter by the scheme. If you know what I mean, the scheme don't dictate the throw, the physical part. So all I know is with Drake May, I've seen so many, more times than any of these other quarterbacks where the ball is behind the receiver. So we know that in today's football, they love to do crossing routes, drag routes, slants, a lot of stuff over the middle. His ball is behind the receiver so many times. And I ain't talking about like every play, but like if you see it 7 times, that's way too much for a quarterback. So I was like, okay, I have a question about his accuracy, because in the NFL, typically when you get a quarterback that continually can't place that ball on a slant, unless they're getting hit or something, that typically means their accuracy is not really up there. And we all know what can happen with a bad play, with a behind the ball. That's an easy drop. That's an easy tip up interception. That's easier for the defender to drive on that interception because they're in trail position. You could get your player knocked out. All types of bad stuff. So that was the first thing that kind of raised my eyebrow. But then you continue to watch him, and it's not bad. Like Will Levis to me last year, or not, yeah, it was last year. And it was another, I can't remember. It was another quarterback recently, but Will Levis sticks out to me where his accuracy was just sporadic. It was just all like, it was nowhere near what it was supposed to be. So it ain't that bad. But I feel like he has good accuracy. So typically what I'll do is I'll do average. I'll do poor, below average, which I rarely do. Average, above average, good, great, excellent, elite. So I think he's in that good. He's not very good, but he's good. And so I have to go back and watch that. That was one of the things that stood out to me immediately. So he runs a lot. I think he's very mobile. Big body, so you're not going to be able to throw him around, but at the same time, I don't think he's like breaking anybody's ankles or anything. I think he's a good scrambler. I like his throwing mechanics. I think that looks good. His release is slow. I think his throwing mechanics are pretty good, pretty tight, but the ball does not come out fast, and it actually really hurts him in certain situations. Any quarterback, but him in particular, when I watch, there's certain situations because he was under so much pressure, because his offensive line was not great. He gets the ball batted more than you would think for a 6'4" guy. And so I do think that release is part of one of those issues. As far as and then I didn't like his lower body mechanics. As far as the pocket, I thought he was pretty much above average. I like his feet. He's active. He's bouncing like he's supposed to be. And then I think his elusiveness in the pocket isn't super great. I put in my notes, he's easier to bring down than you would expect. Like, he's got good athleticism for his size, and we know he can run out the pocket. But in terms of like in the pocket, getting sacked, he goes down pretty easily. And so that was interesting. But then, yeah, above average awareness. Honestly, I don't think he has great awareness at all. I might, because I've seen a little bit since, and I might downgrade that to average. He does not work the pocket well, to me. He doesn't work the pocket well. He doesn't see the rush well. And it's not terrible, but it is very much average to above average. And it's lower than what you would want from somebody that's supposed to be this high. Throw it through contact and under pressure, passes were not accurate. And that's one thing you don't want to see. I mean, the worst thing you can see is a quarterback that can't throw when there's pressure and contact, but the second worst thing is where your accuracy just dies. And I just thought his passes were not accurate when he had people in his face. On throwing on the run, accuracy was again an issue. A lot of balls selling on him, not going where you wanted to. Reading the progression, I thought he was good. He could get to multiple options. Um, and then this is where I give him some slack. I gave him an above average decision maker, but I do think, and it's weird because I wish I wrote it down because I explained it well at first, but this is one of the rare times I watched and I was like, the scheme is holding this guy back. The scheme is this is not a good scheme for him. And so while I do say above average decision maker, I do think that was part of the offense. Like, it was a lot of pre-scripted plays, a lot of spread stuff, a lot of things that I just don't think were schemed up well. And so either he had to force that play or he was forced to improvise. And again, he didn't really have the supporting cast around him to do that. I do think there's a world where Drake May looks infinitely better than he did this year, which is probably what most fans of him think. But I do think there are some issues that are going to be outside of the scheme that kind of holds him back for me. But, you know, prototypical size, most likely a good arm, good mobility, ability to scramble. I do think he's a gamer. I do think he just has those typical issues of a rookie quarterback. He doesn't throw with anticipation. He's used to a lot of one read plays. And the biggest question for me is the accuracy. And then after that, it's the pocket. And the pocket can grow. The accuracy, if you are just inaccurate, or if it was a result of the circumstances, because he was under siege a lot, then that's going to be a big question to answer for a team. Because if the accuracy is just not there, then yeah, you're gonna have a long haul in front of you. But I do think I put in my notes, receivers dropped a lot of passes. He showed great touch on some of the deep balls. So it's a bit of a mixed bag for me. He's number 3 for me. And number 4 is Michael Penix Jr. Michael Penix is a very interesting one, man. So the best thing I can say about how to describe this, Michael Penix clearly doesn't have a level 5 arm. You can see that. However, he can make some big arm throws. Not level 5, but he can make some really nice velocity, some big throws. I think day to day, as in play to play, he is what I call a 50 and in quarterback. If the field was 50 yards instead of 100, he'd be great. Tua's one of those guys. And so there are plays, though, that he makes that you're like, oh, no, his arm is that. The thing is, 2 guys can make the same throw. Quarterback A can make the same throw as quarterback B. But quarterback A might be able to make that throw on one leg, falling backwards, on the move. Quarterback B could make that throw, but he has to take all of his lower body torque and put everything into it and transfer all that power and throw it as hard as he can to make that throw. So they can both make the throw, don't mean they have the same level of arm talent. And that's where it is with Penix. Penix has to put everything into these throws. You can see he's putting so much into these throws. And you're not going to have that in the NFL play to play. Obviously, you're going to have dirty pockets. You're going to be on the move, all those different things. So for me, I have 3.5 arm. And there's talk at the Pro Bowl or the Senior Bowl that his arm was bigger than people expected, blah, blah. And again, I don't think he can't make big arm throws. I don't know if that's his play to play. Unless he got like went to a team with a super great offensive line, maybe. But, you know, obviously when things aren't clean, you're not going to be able to throw like that. And so that was the biggest thing, because that's the first, you're going to see how the person moves at quarterback, any player. But then the next thing, you're going to look at their arm talent. And Penix is a tough one because gauging his arm talent isn't super easy. He might be a 3.9, but for my intents and purposes, I put him at a 3.5. He has a very, very big sidearm throw. I don't like it. It got him in trouble a lot, to be honest. A lot of batted balls, a lot of, yeah. He's got his arm slot comes out on the side. I haven't seen a lot of quarterbacks like that recently. I think once that 707 era kind of really popped, you had a lot of quarterbacks going to quarterback camps, and I forgot the name. It's the guy. Oh, I used to see him all the time, but I forgot, it was like C2 or something like that. He had this whole quarterback system. A lot of quarterbacks really work to redefine their throwing motion at a young age. And so you see less of this, but he's got that sidearm, and it's a wind up, so it comes out slow. It doesn't come out slow, but it takes him a while to deliver it, and his sidearm, so that's a recipe for disaster. Great run in the ball. I think he was a lot more dangerous than people gave him credit for. And again, I actually like his release. Like once the ball actually comes, it comes out of his hands pretty well. Gave him great release, but that throwing mechanics kind of makes it null and void. I like his lower body mechanics. Again, he's a guy that understands he needs his lower body to be in tune with his upper body to get the most out of his throws. I like this. I loved him in the pocket for the most part. Good feet, good elusiveness, good awareness. Put average manipulation, but that's something I'm going to go back and watch. And then throwing under pressure and contact, I thought he was good, but his accuracy can dip a little bit. I put great ability to go through the progressions. It seems like he knew where people were. He could get to multiple options, check it down. Good decision maker. I think he's best in rhythm. Great accuracy, short to mid and deep ball. That's something I want to go back as well and double check. But in first impression, I would say his accuracy was pretty impressive. Great touch on the deep ball throws. I thought his end zone work was his best stuff with Odunze and everything. Not, them making insane catches necessarily. They definitely made hard catches, but he really gave them a chance in a way that didn't harm the ball. So I really liked his end zone work. I said he consistently throws with anticipation. Again, you talk about Tua. That is kind of something you have to do when your arm's not the strongest, especially with that sidearm delivery. See, the thing is, once you are off schedule and you're not like scrambling to open space and you're just trying to throw it from the pocket, that's going to get batted down every time. And so, yeah, I just put timing made up for his lack of arm strength, and that he played, he consistently showed that he could play off schedule and get outside of the pocket and do some other things. He's a bit of a gamer, and he reminds me of Tua. So I like, obviously the competed for a championship, really led that team, very much a leader, very much a gamer, but there might be some physical limitations. But I think in the right system, he'll do well. And then Bo Nix would be next. And Bo Nix, for me, 3.5 arm. I didn't think his arm was that great. I think he was very prototypical backup type arm. Not to say that he's going to be a backup, but typically when you see backups, that the arm strength's not the same level as a starter, which is why, again, guys stick around the league for so long, or Joe Flacco come off the couch, because having a strong arm is where it starts and ends. So for me, a lot of experience, obviously. I didn't love his pocket, any of it really. It was average to above average to me. He's a quick athlete, but pretty easy to take down once you get him. And then his manipulation wasn't super great to me. It was just kind of a roll out the pocket type guy. It's not like he really manipulated the pocket well. I thought his mechanics was good. His release was good. Lower body mechanics need to improve, tie it all together. I did put that he was great on the run. He does like to move the pocket. That seemed to be where he was best at, which is fine, but obviously you want to be able to throw from the pocket. And then as far, I'm trying to see, where did I put his, okay. So for accuracy, I put average for short to medium. It was sporadic. That's the biggest thing that stood out to me is that I didn't think he had the strongest arm. His accuracy wasn't always great. Um, the deep ball I thought was good. He's going to miss short, which tells you he doesn't have the strongest arm. And then 40 yards and in, 50 yards and in, much like Penix, I think that's where he was best. Beat where the field's a lot shorter. And so good touch on the deep ball, nice hit rate. But if he misses, he's going to miss short, and that means interceptions. That's not something you want. And then I said he threw with above average anticipation, and they did a lot of one read in that offense. So having those prescribed plays kind of tells you the timing of it. How can you do that within a regular NFL passing game? That's going to be the question. And so, yeah, overall, man, I mean, I know Bo Nix is going to be tempting to some people, but him and J.J. McCarthy, with spoilers, I just don't see how people rate them as first-round picks. I like the athleticism. He's mobile. I like the experience he has, a lot of different systems. He's definitely a gamer. There's some things you like, but there's too many core pieces to me that are a little bit average. And so I don't know that if I'm a team, especially a quarterback needy team that might not be great, I don't know if I'm getting him in the first round because I don't know if he survived. Now, if I'm a playoff team and I could get him later, then that might be something I could look into. But I don't know that his ceiling is super great. And then J.J. McCarthy, for me, I got to go back and watch it again. As you know, he didn't pass a whole ton. But I gave him a 3.5 arm too. I just thought his arm was not really strong. He had excellent release. Ball came out quick. But I don't think he had like a great arm, to be honest. And then everything in the pocket, I want to go back and watch. I graded it as kind of average. I put below average for his pocket manipulation. And you could get away with that when you got a great O-line. One of those guys that gets to the top of his drop, just stands there and throws, which, isn't bad. But at some point in the NFL, you're going to have to be able to manipulate the pocket. Good thrower on the run. I thought he was a good decision maker. He didn't put the ball in harm's way too much, but it's just a lot more I got to watch from JJ. I don't, obviously, like other players, I don't think he had the type of attempts they had. And so with Michigan running the ball a lot and stuff, there's not a ton to go through, but I have to go back and watch. But overall, I just got a above average feel from what he does. And knowing Harbaugh and kind of watching him in the playoffs, I know that he's going to be a guy that can get into a system, learn it well, play within rhythm, play on time. And I think that's cool, but that's not a first round pick to me. And I will use the Bears in this situation. Reminds me of Tyson Bagent. I always forget his name, but Bagent, our backup quarterback. And I think Bagent's arm is better, but still just kind of a guy that has a little bit of everything. Mobile, good enough arm, and can really play within time in a system. But what is your ability to elevate on the offense? That's going to be the difference. And I don't see a world where I would ever take him or Bo Nix in the first round. But that's what people are talking about. So that is how the quarterback's laid out. Shout out to subscriber all day 3004. First one to put me on a Spencer Rattler. I did go and watch a game. And then I seen a little bit of him at the Senior Bowl practice. His name is getting a lot of buzz. I am very, very, very intrigued. I just did not, once I was already past the quarterbacks, I'm have to wait to the next round of evaluations to add them on. So I didn't put him on the list, but I do think he will probably be above Michael Penix from just what I've seen already. And subscriber all day mentioned that he could do a lot of things that Caleb can do. Obviously, he lost his job to Caleb at Oklahoma. And I can see some similarities there. I can see some similarities to Mahomes. I don't think he's on Caleb's level, but he is going to be very, very, very interesting. The biggest thing that I like is he went from a very spread heavy system to a very more pro style system. And so he was able to make that transition pretty well. So it's the IQ that's really intriguing me, and the arm talent is there too. So yeah, check out Spencer Rattler. Y'all probably get, if you're a college guy, you probably already know him. But if you're not like me, check him out. I think you might get excited too. So I can't wait to really dive into that. All right. So with all that being said, we're going to do the real grade, where I go back, pick a team, and we look at the real grade, because as I tell you, you can only really grade a prospect after 3 years, roughly 50 games or so. And so what I like to do is go back to 3 drafts ago and pick a team, and we give them a real grade, because people grade them that night. It's so dumb. And this is why we go back and give it the real grade. And as tradition, my first few are the Super Bowl teams, because they made it to the Super Bowl. So we're going to start the Kansas City Chiefs today. They got Nick Bolton with their first pick. This was the second round, number 26 in the second round, if that makes it easy for you. So a late second round pick, Nick Bolton, linebacker out of Missouri. Obviously, Nick Bolton still with the team, starter. I don't think he's got an all-pro, but I think he's got a Pro Bowl. And he's one of the better off linebackers in the league. So that is a home run in the second round. Then second round pick, number 31 in the second round. So another late one, Creed Humphrey. Obviously, interior offensive linemen don't go high typically. Creed Humphrey, I want to say he was the highest rated center that year. But either way, they get him in the second round. He has been an all-pro, I believe. Definitely been a Pro Bowler. One of the better centers in the league. Part of that O-line that really flipped around for Kansas City after they lost to the Bucks. Home run pick right there. You got fourth round, number 39, Joshua Kendo. I'm not sure I pronounced that. DN out of Florida State. No longer with the team. Was with the team for a few years. I think he just got waived this year. But never really started. Didn't play a lot. So that was a miss. But obviously it was a fourth round pick, so you didn't give up a ton. Fifth round pick, number 18, you get Noah Gray out of tight end out of Duke. Noah Gray still on the team, still in the rotation, doesn't start, nothing like that, but still a useful pick that you get some snaps out of. So I would say that's a good pick. And then you got round 5, 37, Cornell Powell, receiver out of Clemson, on the practice squad, has been with the team this whole time, and he has been on the practice squad. So didn't get many snaps out of him, but still with the team, so that's important. Then round 6, pick number 42, you get Trey Smith, guard out of Tennessee, who is an all-pro and Pro Bowler and starter and all of that since day one. So when you look at it, you have 6 picks. Out of the 6 picks, 5 are still with the team. Out of those 5, 3 are starters. And out of those 3 starters, all are Pro Bowlers at least. So no first round pick. Majority still on the team. Big time contributors. This is without doubt a A+ draft. And I'm not going to say every draft is great for Super Bowl contenders, but every year I do this, they tend to have pretty good draft classes. So A+ draft for the Kansas City Chiefs, real great. All right, that's it for me. Go down to the comment section. Let me know what you think about this year's quarterbacks. I'm sure there's a lot of debate, a lot of discussion. Any questions you have about the process, how we grade quarterbacks and all that, let me know. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.